Oh. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Outside the Box, the podcast devoted to supporting Central PA's small business. I am your host, Derek Bixler, real estate agent and digital marketing geek right here in Central PA. I grew up on the Hill in Harrisburg, went to Mechanicsburg High School, and went up to Penn College of Technology up in Williamsport. I've been here ever since, had a few sales jobs before I started selling houses and commercial properties about 15 years ago. If you need to sell a house, right now is the time to sell it. Prices are sky high. Text me, email me, throw a rock with a note through my window, send a carrier pigeon, whatever you need to do. We need houses really, really bad. Inventory is in low supply. We're looking at the stats this morning in our sales meeting, and I think it's still at like a fourth or a quarter of what the 5-year average is as far as active listings on the market. So that's why prices are up. There's nothing for sale. If you'd like to subscribe to our email list and get networking mixer updates, there's some cool ones coming up, episode announcements and exclusive special offers. You can go to supportcentralpa.com and subscribe to our email there. If you are in Clubhouse, follow me. I'm at Agent Derek. And a reminder that every Thursday, 1 to 2, we do have a Clubhouse room where you can come and connect with other Central PA small businesses. Central PA Small Business Connect is what we're calling it. You can network with people, share ideas, yada, yada. You don't really get Clubhouse until you get there and experience it. So if you would like to experience it and need an invite, hit me up. I have like 7 or 8 sitting there that I should use. So hit me up if you have Apple and want to get on Clubhouse. A reminder to ask a question down in the comments if you have something for me or our guest who we'll get to in a minute. Put it in the comments. If we don't see it now, we will come back later and answer it. And a reminder that all replays are available on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and we're live on all those places and soon on iTunes and all the audio podcast players, Spotify, yada, yada. And now we will get into it. If you were thinking about writing a book, but you don't know how to do it or you don't have the time and you want to follow through with it and have a better product at the end than you would if you did it yourself anyway, this is the episode for you. We have Isabelle Harman of YellowBird Ghostwriting and Publishing with us. And I will shut up here and we will talk and you can introduce yourself. Hello, thanks for being on the show.
Great. Thank you for having me. Boy, it's hard to follow that. You're so energetic. I'll try. I'm Isabelle Harman. I own a YellowBird Ghostwriting and YellowBird Publishing. You asked me to tell you a little bit about my life. So I grew up, I'm not from Pennsylvania. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and got there when I was about 7 years old after living in Japan, and I was born in France. So,
all right, so stop. Wait. Stop there. Born in France, why? Because your parents are French, or they were there for, okay.
My mother is French. My father was there as an American civilian working, and they met, and I have 6 siblings and myself.
And then went to, hold on. And then went to Japan. Why?
Japan. My father was stationed there.
Okay. All right.
He got a job through the civil service in Japan.
Okay. So born in France, then went to Japan and then straight to St. Louis from Japan.
We went to St. Louis from Japan. Correct.
Okay.
So
continue. That's a good pass. I didn't want to just skate over that. Most people are, we're from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I've been sitting here my whole life, and then we move on. So you have a little bit more colorful upbringing than some others.
Oh, okay. Well, so grew up in St. Louis, and then I joined the Army for a while. And my husband is still on active duty. We've been doing this for about 30 years. It'll be 31. For me, and he's actually been doing it his whole life because his father is also a service member, retired. And now we've decided to stay here in Carlisle, PA, and retire. So getting to know the community, and it's beautiful. This is a beautiful state. What I've been able to see so far, I really like it. It's very comparable to where I grew up, in Missouri is a beautiful state. So hard to compare the two sometimes. But then I used to be, I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. Then I started a coaching business, doing career coaching. In particular, my biggest interest, and still a big interest, is to help military spouses find what their niche is. For me, though, after a while, coaching just didn't feel right. And I found my true passion, which has always been a part of me for my whole life, and that is writing. And one of the things that I learned was there are people out there who need help either writing a book or writing content for blogs, for social media, to write a white paper for LinkedIn. And that's where I help them do that. I started this business in 2018. So I'm in year 3. Like most people, 2020, I thought I was going to soar, and nope, put the brakes on that. So I just kept trying to plug along. But this year it looks like it's going to be a good year for me to build this business. Last year is when I brought on board YellowBird Publishing, registered that here in PA, and that is a service where I will help a person, an author. You may already have a book written, or you may be in the process of writing it, or we start at the beginning together. I take you through the writing process and then through publication, and help you for 12 months past the launch date of your book.
So as a child, did you like reading? Were you a book nerd, as they say? Did you have Book It when you were young? I had Book It.
No, I don't know what book
we had
it
to
is.
fill up our pin. There were like 5 stars on a pin, and if you got all 5 stars within a month or whatever the time period was, then you got a personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut or some kind of prize. And our 3rd grade teacher was cool, and she would read the books with us so that she made sure everybody got their 5 stars, and then she would go and pick up the pizzas and bring them. Mrs. Root, who is still out there somewhere, I think on Facebook, she could be watching. She was awesome. Yeah, and she would, back when she would actually she would take us to restaurants and stuff. Cool stuff you couldn't do now, but it was super cool then, and she was a great person. So what was I saying? Book It. Yeah. So were you a book nerd back then? Did you like reading, writing, all that kind of stuff?
I would not call myself a book nerd. Great shout out to your 3rd grade teacher. I didn't like my 3rd grade teacher. I do remember her, but I'm glad you had a great one. No, I wouldn't say I was a book nerd, but I did read. I did read a lot. My favorite books to read were Beverly Cleary books. And I also really like Astrid Lindgren, who wrote Pippi Longstocking. So not a funny story, but one of the plans my husband and I have is to do a walkthrough of the AT. And my trail name will be Pippi Longstocking, because I mean, something was always wrong, and something's always off with me for some reason. So if you want to talk about a book series that influenced me, it's probably her, Pippi Longstocking. And Astrid.
You better research that. The trail name might be taken. I don't know if there's a log anywhere.
I'll have to figure out some way to get at least Pippi in there somehow, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good goal. I'd love to do that someday. Hopefully I can still walk and do it all by the time my kids are gone and can do it. And you're in the perfect place, Carlisle, now. And I still actually had some, there's a huge military presence, for those that don't know, in Central PA in general, but also in Carlisle in particular. I just had some people this weekend from California visiting, and they decided to settle in Boiling Springs.
Nice.
For partially that reason, Air Force stuff. But yeah, and just vacating California for whatever reason.
Well, probably cost of living.
Right. Yeah, totally. So you did like to read a little bit, and it sounds like you liked fiction mostly growing up. Is there a certain type of book you like to work on, fiction versus nonfiction? So
the books that I help people write are nonfiction, business books in particular, and memoirs. I have an interest in helping people write fiction, but it's probably not going to be a strong suit for me, and probably not a good match for somebody who's writing a book of fiction. So business books and memoirs are my 2 areas.
Gotcha. And have you written any books of your own?
I'm in the process of writing my first book, which I will self-publish this year. I have manuscripts that I've written, but not published. So this year I'll be writing a memoir about my time during a deployment while we were at the 101st at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Yeah.
How many pages? How many words? Do you go by word? You go by word count, right?
So it's when I have an agreement with somebody, it's usually a manuscript up to 50,000 words. So that's approximately 250 pages. So, and that's a 6x9 book, basically. Yeah, it's a word count. It's not, but when I work with somebody, I have packages that are a flat rate instead of going to, I'll help you up to 50,000 words and it's going to cost you so much per word to help you. That you'll normally see, I think, more with an editor and a proofreader, freelance editor and proofreaders who will charge you by the word.
So by now you have some kind of system where you have systematized this and you know what steps you have to take and when, and certain things you have to do in certain order. What would you say is the first step if somebody was wanting to write a book, whether it's with you or on their own? What's usually the first step?
Commitment. You got to commit to it. It's not an easy process. But once you have a commitment and you're ready to write it, depending on what you're going to write about, then it's a matter of outlining your whatever you're going to say, your story or your program, whatever you want to put in book form, and then do it systematically through your outline to get it done. This is the first time around, and don't worry about what it looks like. I mean, I know you've heard this from other authors who have been interviewed and all of that, and it's absolutely true. Don't worry about what that first round looks like. Just get it out. Type it on the computer, type it on your laptop, write it out longhand. It doesn't matter. The important thing is to get it out of your mind and onto some computer or paper.
Yeah. If you join any membership groups that are masterminds or anything about book writing or other people that are trying to write books, it's all about showing up. The language is always just show up. When are you showing up? When are you time blocking to do that thing? Which is true of a lot of things, I guess. So when you're writing for someone, your commitment is you're getting paid to write this thing. So do you actually time block chunks of time that you're going to write for this client or something to that effect?
Absolutely. I find that I write best in the morning. So I block my time in the morning so that I can go out and at least walk first before I start doing anything. And then I meditate as well. And then I'm in the right frame of mind to start writing. And then I usually don't schedule any appointments until around 1 in the afternoon. And
can you write for more than one client in a day?
You can. It depends on I can. I'll say that, not you, but I can. It depends on what the subject matter is. But sometimes you've got to. So committing to help somebody write their book as a ghostwriter, it's not just about putting words on paper. You also have to schedule your time. I am scheduling my time so that I'm able to do research, because whatever you're writing, first of all, it needs to be in the voice of the author. So I'm the writer, the person whose book it is the author. And then you need to make sure that whatever the content is factual or is consistent with, industry standards, and other considerations like that when you're writing the manuscript. I want to come back very quickly to point out that it's not just, when I work with somebody, it's not just about sitting down and, okay, this week we're going to start writing. It's an interview process as well, because most of the time I'm meeting people for the first time who are looking for a ghostwriter. And it's a matter of saying, okay, well, we're going to have to take, in our agreement, you're going to understand that during the first month, we're going to be interviewing. I'm going to be interviewing you. You're going to interview me. So we get to know each other better. The important part is that I'm going to be asking a lot of questions to make sure I understand your voice, your rhythm, your pace, the content that you want, and the audience that you're trying to reach.
And their commitment too, because it's not, and their commitment too, right? You need to gauge if they're going to hang in for the long haul, because I don't know, you can speak to how long the process from start to finish usually takes, but I'm guessing it's not in a month. And no, it's not, you don't just go and, hey, I need a book, 30 days, get a book, let's publish it, and I'll go hand it out to people. It's more of a 6 months, a year. I don't know. You tell me. Yeah.
6 months, 6 to 9 months. And then you should be able to have a manuscript ready for publication. Depends on the content, depends on the availability of the author to work with the ghostwriter. And then, then there may be other factors that you have to throw in there and be aware of: sickness, vacations, things like that. So 6 months, though, is usually the time frame that I work with clients on, from start interviewing to finish publication. And then anything that takes longer than that is, you probably have enough information to put in the book. Anything other than that is probably a second book, quite frankly. And
how much involvement by the author is there during that process? Is there a sliding scale of not involved at all? I really don't want to do anything. Ask me the minimal amount and do research on your own as much as possible, up to I literally dictate to you and then you kind of write it?
Sure. Yeah, there is actually that scale. So there are those who, but these are the people who don't want to participate are rare. So it's more, you're always going to have some kind of collaboration there. What it ends up being is how much content that the author has already created that they give you, and then they determine how much that they're willing to put in there, or if they only want to review whatever you write and research. And then you've got the people, and this is more on the end of not ghostwriting really, but you have some people who have a manuscript already done. Once that's done, that is completed, then the relationship with that person is not as a ghostwriter, but as an editor, and then eventually proofreading for that person.
Gotcha. So after you have everyone's commitment, your commitment, the author's commitment, everybody has displayed the commitment, and you start outlining, what does an outline look like? Is that just chapter titles, or give me a little bit of an explainer about how detailed an outline might be?
It could be chapter titles, and that helps to keep you focused on what you're going to write in each chapter. It could be, for example, I was working with a woman who had a subject matter topic. I can't disclose what she was writing, but she had challenges as for each section. So it was challenge 1, challenge 2, challenge 3 written out completely, and then we would write, or she would dictate to me and I would write it out for her. Other people, they go chronologically. If let's say they're writing a memoir, they say, no, I want to talk about what my age from 7 to 13. And they start at year 7 and they just write through to age 13. So every person writes in a way that's comfortable for them. And the ghostwriter should be able to adapt to that style and help guide and coach.
And do you have any resources, or do you help guide people through that? Like if somebody comes to you, say, I want to write a book, I really want to do this, but I really have no idea what I would talk about, or what I would say, or what I would even put in this outline. Do you have ways to draw ideas out of people? Is that part of the interview process?
It is part of the process. So like any new concept, it's basically interviewing obviously has a lot to do with it. And then it's brainstorming. Because somebody might have a great idea or 10, and then you got to kind of bring them back and say, no, okay, 10 ideas is great, but maybe that's book number 10. Let's go to idea number 1 and break this one down and talk about what the content could be with that. Or it could be idea 1 through 4. And that is what's going to be able to fill a book.
Are there certain things that you point out that you ask people, like, I don't know, think of any big giant triumphs in your life, or big giant trials in your life, or those kind of highs and lows? Are those the kind of things you're trying to bring out of people to think of? I would think those are things that people want to read about. So I'm just guessing. Yeah,
it definitely is. So most people who I've met with already have a concept in mind of what they want to write about. So it's a matter of, okay, let's outline that concept. And then we've got to make sure that once we've designated who your reader is, your readership will be, then let's talk about what lessons, since we're talking business books pretty much here, what lessons are people going to draw from there? And what do you want them to walk away after putting your book down, going through that last page? What do you want them to walk away learning, doing? It's always a call to action, basically. And what else? What will be the next step after you have completed the original manuscript? Are you going to take the book after it's published, and you're going to use it as a way to get engagements for podcasts or a speaking engagement? Are you going to just give them away? Where are you in your author life? Is this book 1? Is this book 5? And if it's book 5, are you creating a new concept, or are you pivoting to something else? And now you've already established your expertise in books 1 through 4. And now 5, you want to start to enter into a new area. So these are things that we have to talk about.
And the call to action at the end, I guess, could be to get them to read the next book if there's going to be a next book. And if there isn't going to be a next book, then obviously that can't be the call to action. What are other calls to action? Just calls to action to implement the book? Or are these actual like marketing calls to action to a lot of the marketing business books I have? There's literally like an ad for the membership group right after the end of the book. There's an ad for something, or even little inserts or whatever. So what would be a call to action at the end of a book?
So, well, that obviously is one that all of us know who read any books that to help us build our businesses and become better professionals. There's also send me an email, tell me how you did this, show me, like, for example, I went through a program with Ross Simmons, who's the founder of Foundations Marketing, and at the end of this was a webinar. And at the end of each one, I had to send him, how I implemented what I learned in that lesson. That could be the same thing at the end of each chapter of a book, at the end of the book itself. The other thing that you could consider, depending on what your content is the call to action is to bring people together in a book club. So is that the purpose of your book? And then you're having dialogue, and then you say, hey, join our Facebook group so we can talk about this further. What did you learn? What did you implement? What would you change that we put in the book?
So it just goes back to where you were before in defining who your audience is and defining what your goal with the book is, so that you know what that call to action at the end is going to be and what your content is going to be. So really in the steps, it's show that commitment. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do this thing. And then it's figure out who the audience is and how you're going to serve that audience. And then it's do that outline, I guess. So after the outline, how do people write? They usually everybody's obviously going to learn how they write the best, but are you supposed to just blurb it out? Are you supposed to kind of try to fix it as you go? How do you write?
Okay,
That's a very, very open-ended question. I know, but I guess the question is more what happens after the outline. I'm assuming it's start writing.
Okay. Yes. There's nothing else to say, but let me come back to something that you said in terms of the sequence of how a person would go through the process. It's not always about defining your audience first. A lot of people, like I said, they come to me with an idea about their book already. And sometimes you have to find out if that idea has an audience. So they're going to they're going to meet with me. They're going to say, I've got all these great ideas. I already have an outline. And then we're going to say, okay, well, let's see if there's an audience for this book. And then we go back and adapt the outline once we've defined the audience. I forgot your question.
Well, that point was good because it was find your buyer first. I just started watching Undercover Billionaire, and it's the guy gets dropped off in Erie, Pennsylvania, actually, with nothing, with $100, and he sleeps in his car, yada yada. And he talks about that very thing. And now I forgot where I was going with that comment. My question was, after the outline, how do you start writing? Are you time blocking? Are you saying, okay, I'm going to write this chapter, or should you start like smaller than a chapter?
So it depends on the person. Some people can sit down, some people, once we've gone through our process, I start to understand more and more of what the content is going to be. Then it's a matter of, if we're working in collaboration, it's a matter of, okay, we're still going to continue to meet weekly. What are you going to do, and what will I do? So if somebody is they know what they want to write, they know they have a good idea, then they're probably going to go straight down, step by step from their outline. But some people just cannot function that way. It's not always a linear way of thinking. Some people have, a chaotic way of thinking, and they've got to jump around in their outline. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that when we bring it back together, because sometimes the outline as it's written the first time around is not going to be how it will end up in the final manuscript.
And sometimes I would guess, yeah. And you probably get clients who have written something before, but they never had an outline or chapters, or some people maybe write better that way. I'm just going to write this thing that's on my brain and then we'll figure all the rest out later. So maybe that comes down to a style thing. So when you're writing with somebody, how do you show that on a page? If it's written by you or them, is it just, like you said, does it say written by and then author on the actual book?
So there's always part of the agreement is whether or not the ghostwriter will get cover credit. You can get the cover credit, or you can not be on any indication that you were part of the process. So it all depends on who you're working with and what their purpose is. Because sometimes, if somebody's trying to establish themselves as an expert in an area, they don't really want to have a co-author on their book.
I would think most people would not. What do you think the ratio? I would say 90% don't want anybody else on there.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you. Just depends on the person.
Sure.
Some people are very nice about it at first and say, "Oh yeah, you can be on the cover," and then they start working on it with me, and they start to realize how much they're also putting into the process. And no, this is my story to tell, or this is my program I want to share, and I think we'll stick with my name on the cover.
Well, yeah. And if you're trying to build your brand and get speaking gigs and be a thought leader and everything, you can't have a book and then right underneath it says written by somebody else. That's not going to work too well.
Well, at least not, and it'll never be written by somebody.
Or you can be co-written too, I guess.
Well,
right?
it's never. So as a ghostwriter, your name is never, or let's say a collaborative writer. So ghostwriter, your name's not going to be on there. If it becomes a collaboration, then you're going to be, it's going to be the author's name first, and it's going to be either with or and then the ghostwriter's name. And of course the font is going to be smaller. So.
And then once it's all written, whether it's you writing a bulk, them, whatever the involvement is, you're doing the editing yourself, correct? Is that what you said?
Do. Correct.
And then what is editing? How many times do you go back and forth? What does the editing process for a book look like?
So once the manuscript is complete, we go through three editing cycles. After the third editing cycle, the manuscript should be ready to go, ready for us to send to the proofreader. After it goes to the proofreader, then we send it to a group of volunteers called beta readers. And these are the ones who will give us feedback on the book before we go to final publication.
How do you find those people?
I'm sorry?
How do you find those people?
Word of mouth. I'm like, I don't have that kind of network yet. So I've been putting it out there to the networking group that I'm a part of, asking them to send me people who might be interested. How
many do you try to get normally?
Probably no more than 10.
Oh, okay. So not too bad.
No, because that's more than enough feedback. And of that 10, you might get 4 or 5 who actually read the whole manuscript. So, and
then one that actually gives good feedback that you can use.
You're hoping for better, but you never know.
Yeah. And you're kind of just trying to get any glaring things that are obviously wrong with it, or way confusing, or nobody gets this chapter of the book, or this doesn't make any sense, or whatever.
Right. So once we get that back, then we go through and do the final layout of the manuscript. It goes back to the proofreader, and then it's ready for publication. And
then once it's published, can you make changes to it later? I guess it depends if you print them or not.
Well, you can get them printed. So if we agree that YellowBird will be the publishing house for it, then you can either get print on demand. There will always be an ebook available. Audiobook is something that would be completely separate because sometimes the author is doesn't have the right voice, to be able to do that, to read an audiobook. So you might have to hire a voiceover person, somebody who's got the talent for that. But then you go, I forgot. There's another step in there where before we send the manuscript, we'll send the manuscript also to advanced readers to be able to get it endorsements for the book and testimonials to add to the book's inside.
This is the final version, or as close to final version as possible,
Correct.
that you send to some other thought leaders, hopefully, or some names that look good when you put it in there.
Correct. And that's something that we discuss. You know, when I'm working with an author, it's like, okay, who do you like to read? Who do you follow? Is there, you know, so that we can try to get the manuscript in that person's hands to get their feedback on it.
Do you ever get a foreword written by one of those people? Or
Exactly. We could try to, but that, you know, the foreword probably isn't going to happen in a first book because, you know,
depends
that
who it is, I guess.
Reputation as well, unless they know you really well. You know, it's just in a first book, I wouldn't count on a foreword from somebody who you admire.
So let's talk about the publishing a little bit more. What services do you offer as far as the publishing goes?
So,
and does it go into distribution as well?
It does go into distribution as well. So we offer the distribution of the book. We will manage the printing process. If you choose to print on demand, we manage that for the author as well. Like I said, the books are always formatted for ebook as well. And then after that, we stay with you for 12 months. And that will include a public relations plan and some event planning for you. And what I like to tell people is, so my intent is to keep YellowBird Publishing as a very small publishing house. I wouldn't say boutique or anything like that, but I want to be a catalyst for new authors or for authors who are pivoting to, you know, establish themselves in another field. But my intent, if you come with me as your publisher, is to help you to do the distribution, get the printing done, but also then to prepare your book to be able to create a it's slipping my mind. Anyway, to find a bigger publishing house or a literary agent for you to move on to.
So if you wanted to be, I can't even think of any bookstores right now. What, Barnes and Noble? Is that still Borders? Something?
Barnes and Nobles. I don't think Borders. I've never seen a Borders here. But
yeah, Barnes and Noble's at the Camp Hill Mall.
Yeah, exactly. Of course.
So if you wanted to be in there, you would have to go up to one of the bigger publishing houses. Is that what? Or no, you could get into those places.
Well, we could try, but you know, it depends. It depends. I mean, there's a lot more to it. We'd have to really talk about it because that is going to take a lot of, I'm not going to promise something like that to a first-time author.
Sure, because they want vetted authors to take up shelf space. They're not just not going to give it to anybody, and they're also probably looking to the huge suppliers and everything to kind of dictate a lot of that. Sure.
Exactly. I mean, first-time authors will definitely be part of Amazon, the Amazon distribution. You can do that. You know, you create your author.
And I would guess that's the trend anyway, is on-demand printing, and people buy their books online, and then you just print them as it goes.
Exactly. There is still an option if you wanted to, though, to get it printed, traditional printing of your book. But that.
And can you get hardback, different sizes, softback?
Yes.
I know that's not what it's called. And then how do you get involved in the cover design and the design stuff, or do you have somebody that does that for you?
So I work with somebody who will do it for us. And the graphic design for the cover is definitely not my forte, but I do have some people who I work with to help me with graphic design. I've had 2 authors who wanted to work with their own graphic designer, and we stay flexible on that.
So whatever the client wants, but if they can't do it, then you're happy to help with that.
Correct. I do try to vet the people who they recommend and they want to work with, because it's not just about, it's about staying consistent in not just the branding for the author, but the branding also for YellowBird. So
And how much what's an approximate cost for one of these books, the average cost for the end product book on Amazon? $20, or or also a question, I guess, is there a price point you should be trying to hit?
I would say, so we've got to do our market research to see where you fit in the market for your area. So, I mean, if you wanted to also, you could try to sell your book only as an ebook for 99 cents, for $1.99, to just get the traction going. And then you get ready for a second edition. So it could vary, depends on the plan that we choose. And then the size of the book, and then where you sit in the market.
Yeah, and I've seen free plus shipping is a big one. You get it free as long as you pay for the shipping, or it's a free ebook, but then there's a step up, bump up sale thing where you can click and say, "Oh, get the hardback copy also for $100 or not $100."
Yeah,
that could be a pretty good book. That's a manual and a course with that.
Right.
There are some business books up in that range. There was one I just priced. Somebody keeps talking about it, and it's like $250 or something. It's some big marketing book or something.
Oh my God. It's probably a college book. Those poor college students, they have to pay a lot of money for those darn books.
Yeah. You got to cash them in after the semester. You got to sell them back to the store. Totally. So it's mostly, what'd you say, business books, and nonfiction that you're doing?
Correct. Memoirs.
And then, so if somebody wanted to write a novel, say, and they came to you, what would you do with that?
I mean, we would sit down and talk about it. I'm not opposed to it, but I don't, right now, I don't think that that's the right type of book for me to help somebody write.
Are there people that specialize in that? Obviously there are, but is there a network of ghost writers that you could tap into?
Yeah, you can even go onto LinkedIn and, put in the search box ghostwriters, and you'll get a lot. You'll get a lot of ghostwriters who show up. Yeah. You can go on Google and Google ghostwriters, and you'll be able to see who's out there and available.
Are there any services that would go ahead?
I'm sorry. Somebody would ask me if I would be willing to write a children's book, and that I definitely am not willing to write, because that takes a special person to write a children's book to be able to capture that young mind. And I don't think that that's me. So
yeah, not too many words needed, but the creativity needed. We actually, our favorite book right now has 0 words. So it's one that's just pictures, and there's kind of a story, but you're supposed to make up the story as you go. So it is kind of cool. And they didn't have to come up with any words.
Isn't that perfect?
Fantastic. Didn't even have to write it. That's funny. Are there any services or anything we didn't talk about that you want to make sure everybody knows about? Or any elements that we didn't talk about?
Sure. This is just a secondary service that I offer. If anybody's looking for a ghostwriter for their blogs, for their business, I help you create consistent messaging with your blogs. So we'll do a blog calendar and content creation, and then make sure that it goes out at the intervals that you want your blog to go out to. Not very big on social media content creation. I think that there are people out there who are much better than I am to do that. And then, but the one thing that I will say is that I can help you also with a distribution plan through social media, for your blogs, for your white papers, for any type of communication in that realm that you're looking to get help in.
Awesome. So you can kind of ghostwrite anything. And I like the blog writing, obviously, and that'll probably appeal to a lot of the people actually watching, because we all need to be making content for SEO, and just so that when you send your email out or you make a post, it's not just a copy of a link of something that somebody else wrote. It can be something from you that's on your website and showing some thought leadership. Can you talk about the blog writing a little bit? We're going at 40 minutes, but I want to hear, because I'm particularly interested in the blog writing. How much is that usually, like 1,000 word, 2,000 word? Do you have packages for the blog writing?
So the blog writing is a package, and it'll depend. The rate will depend on how often you want the blog to be written, but there's a minimum of a 3-month agreement, because it takes that long for me to get used to your business, to understand your business, to understand the content that you want, and to be able to have a solid distribution plan to go along with the blog writing. And that will be one
blog post a month?
It depends on what you want. Some people want one a week. I used to write for a gentleman who wanted a blog post every week. So, I mean, so the rate, that's why I say the rates will be different in the packages, but there's a 3-month minimum for that, simply because we have to get to know each other and the content that you want, and to make sure that you're starting to gain traction with it. Otherwise, rethink it, or it's not worth your time and finances. The other thing is that when it comes, so I have another client I work with, she sends out a newsletter. And the only thing that I do with that is edit. So I can edit if you want to write it, and she's a writer. She really enjoys writing. So I just go in and edit. That is also a 3-month minimum, because I have to get used to how you write and your content, and to help to make sure that your voice stays consistent over time. So.
That's a great service. And I might have some clients. I mean, that's a big thing, because I'm always telling people you have to have your own content. What are you sending to your clients? Well, first, they don't send emails. And if they do, it's some automated thing that the franchise supplied to them that nobody's reading or cares about. It's not something from them that's written by them. Plus the SEO aspect and just having ownership of your own content is a super good idea. And the 3-month minimum is also good, because it takes you a little while to know how to write for them and to figure it all out. And you don't get any results. A lot of people they wanted to see the results. All right, we posted a blog. I didn't get any customers yet. Where are the customers? Yeah. Well, we got to post a few of them and gain people's trust first. And then after you gain their trust for a while, then a year later, then they will start calling you. But you got to put the work in first.
Exactly. And that's where a distribution plan comes into play also, because you're distributing your message across different platforms. And if you don't have that plan, if you're using only sending out a newsletter, or you're only posting to Facebook and your website, and on Facebook you say, hey, I got a new blog out on my website, go check it out. It's not enough. Not today. You've got to use several platforms to be able to get your message out and to get a following.
And where do people usually sell their book themselves once they end up selling it? Are they typically using Amazon mostly, or you said you can set up dropship print on demand? Is that correct? Is that better profit for them? Because I know Amazon, you don't get too much out of it.
Okay, so let me bust a myth here. A lot of people there are those authors out there who have used a ghostwriter or written their own book who just have phenomenal success. But if you're a first-time author, you should not anticipate that you're going to make anything on your book.
Even if you're a big writer, the goal isn't to make any money on the book itself. That's why they all give it away free plus shipping, especially business books and the type of books we're talking about. Yeah, exactly.
So what the goal should be is to become using the book to establish yourself as an expert in your field. So
which one is going to get you more exposure, I guess, is the better question, and which one's more friendly for the people to use?
Of what?
As far as user friendly. So I have a book out and I want to be able to sell it to people. Is it easier and more seamless to use the service that you provide, or is Amazon really easy and that's why everybody uses it? Is there a difference?
Well, there's a difference in terms of probably personal relationship, and making sure that if I'm working with you, I'm going to be working with you for 12 months after initial launch. And I'm going to make sure that you're getting your book out there, not just for you to grab a bulk of let's just say 100 books for you to take to a signing at an independent bookstore, or let's say even here where we live here close to a military base, so you go into the PX. If you're a military spouse or service member and you've written a book and you want to get it out to the military community. You're going to get that personal service there. You can go through Amazon, but you're also, which I don't discourage, but you're also, if you work with someone like me, you're also going to be sure that you're getting out there in the public. One way or another, you've got to get out in the public to be able to promote your book. So there are advantages if you don't really want to do a lot and get out in the public. You just want people to know you have a book available on Amazon. Easy to do. But if you really want to have an impact, you've got to get out in the public, personally, or today, virtually.
Right. You have to get out and talk about it and talk to people about it. They're not just going to come buy it, whether you're selling the book on Amazon or our website. You need to go out and talk to people about it and create buzz and send it to thought leaders and get people to share it and all that kind of stuff. It's not just going to happen on its own. And if you have it off of Amazon, I mean, most people probably, you're just slathering it everywhere you can because the object is to not make money. It's to get the book out to as many people as possible. But if you have your own website and sell it your own way, then you own that. You own the email list that you don't on Amazon when somebody buys it. You own what the copy is on the website, what you talk about. You own what else they can link to and go to. And you own, if you're selling merchandise or whatever, or discovery call to your business, you can sell other things on there as well. So just having ownership over that landing page or that place that you sell your book is a plus as well.
Exactly.
And then is there anything else we're missing? The blog writing, is there anything else like kind of like short form or bite size that you do like that?
So the blogs, so my word count with blogs is usually between 500 and 700 words. Anything longer than that, you're looking at a long form article, and then anything more than, let's say, 1,500 words, you're looking at a white paper, which you're doing research on. Unless you're already an expert in the area and you can write that white paper without a lot of research. But most of them, they're going to have, they're going to support what they're putting out there with research that they've done, whether it's their own or from another expert.
Or a white paper, maybe something longer could be then chopped down into blog posts or something more bite-sized.
Correct. Yeah. And the same thing with your book. If you're going to write a book, one of the parts, one of the concepts in the distribution plan for your book is also to take chapters and send that out to people to read, because depending on how your book is structured, you could take one part and offer that to your readership for free. So to get them to as a teaser, to get them to write the rest of the book, to read the rest of the book. So,
yeah, I've seen that a lot as a lead magnet. Give your email address and get the first chapter for free right now. And then it's an upsell to get the book, obviously. Before we go out and ask you the funny question that has nothing to do about this. So the audio version, you said you can get people to do it if the person's voice sucks or they don't want to do it or whatever. Where does that live then afterwards? Are you putting it on Audible? Are you putting it on, obviously you have a hard file that you can do whatever with, but how does it work for the client to distribute it if you have a audio version?
We would try to get, if we can, we would get it on Audible if we can, but there are other platforms out there for your audiobooks that we would try to get it out there on. So
there are hosts, or you just charge money and send them the hard file, I guess. I've gotten books multiple different ways where, sometimes you pay the money and then they just literally send you an email with the attachment. Yeah. Somehow coded so that I couldn't send it to somebody else, I guess, or maybe they don't care.
Well,
if it was free, they care. They don't care.
They don't care. Exactly. If they just want to get the word out there. So,
okay.
But yeah, that's something else that we would talk about. And, as far as getting somebody to read the book for you, if you don't really have the voice for it, that's something we would work through as well.
Is that something how long does something like that take? What is it? A book is like 3 hours if you listen to it from beginning to end. I'm going by the average book I listen to on Audible is probably like 2 to 4 hours maybe in length. Do they record it in one chunk, or is that something that takes weeks for somebody to record? How does that process go? You don't have to go through the whole process, but is it something that people do in like a weekend, or is it a drawn out months thing?
I honestly, I cannot answer that question. I haven't had to do an audiobook yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
So sorry.
I would love to. Everybody that I know that's written a book, I always say, let me know when there's an audio version. Cause it's not going to happen. I'm not going to read a book. I just don't have the time, and it's much easier just to listen to it. Plus I just learn better that way. But, okay. So somebody needs to be the first. Next person, somebody needs to be the first to get an audio version.
Exactly.
Do you already have voice people lined up that to do it?
No, because I haven't had a need. So
I'm sure there are people out there on Fiverr and easy to find.
Exactly. I don't know. Yeah.
Depends depending on what the cost and what you're willing to do. And I guess you might need them. They don't need to be local. They can go to a studio wherever they are or whatever. Okay. All right. Well, before we go out, I always ask a funny question that has nothing to do with what you do or what we're talking about or anything. And I literally just Google funny questions, and there are 81 questions on this list, and you can pick a number between 1 and 81, and I will read you that question.
56.
56. 56. Okay. What would be the easiest thing to give up?
Coffee.
Easiest thing to give up is coffee.
Yeah.
Huh.
Only
what are you comparing it to?
Process of doing it.
All right. A little bit of motivation and yeah. Good for you. Well, I'm glad I was thinking you had some worse things that. That's easy. We had the heroin and the meth. That's the hard part. But the coffee, that's going to be easy.
Now, don't give out my secrets, okay?
The cigarettes, that's going to be tough. But the coffee, no problem. Yeah, because clearly the coffee would be tough for me. Although I drink 3/4 decaf typically because I know I'm compulsive and I drink it all day. So I kind of pace myself that way.
Yeah, there was a time when I would let people know that I just needed a catheter. And I'll walk around with my caffeine, just with my coffee. So I've cut back quite a bit. That's why I say coffee's easy.
Well, good for you. I'm glad you can do it so seamlessly. And I'll put your information up here, but read it aloud audibly so people listening later without the screen know where to find you.
Sure. So it's YellowBird Ghostwriter, all1.com. You can call me at 912-695-9667. Sorry, I don't have a Pennsylvania number. I've had this one forever. And then it's my email is Isabelle, Isabelle, at YellowBirdGhostwriter.com.
Thanks. And I will leave that all up there for you watching. You can still get her information. And obviously it's up in the description or down in the description, depending on where you are. You can click for all her stuff. And she is offering a free 60-minute consultation. If anybody wants to discuss the process with her, you can hit her up at any of those contact places that we mentioned. And before we go out, if you're interested in a business spotlight package, which consists of Greg coming to your business, showing behind the scenes, kind of like you saw at Dexterity Depot, the Ninja Warrior gym, where he tried to do the warp wall and you got to see him. He did get it. He got the middle one. I think he did succeed. So you didn't get to see him fail at that one, but you get to see him show how the sausage is made, so to speak. And then an interview and marketing talk. Not really marketing talk anymore. It's more of just an in-depth interview here with me, like you're seeing with me and Isabelle. And then a networking mixer at your business, COVID and your business permitting. If you're interested in one of those, go to supportcentralpa.com and apply for one right there. I can tell you that for a networking mixer, we're booked out through the summer, I believe. But if you want to do an episode with me, just hit me up and we can do an episode whenever it suits both of us. If you're interested in our exclusive special offers, join our email list, 1 email a week, and it comes from me. I have been on time with it every Monday the last couple of weeks. Sometimes I'm late, but it's not spammy. It just tells you what's going on in the group. If you are watching this on YouTube or Instagram or LinkedIn or anywhere other than Facebook, please head over to Facebook and join our Central PA Support Small Business Group. A lot of business being exchanged in there. Some people saying they can't even post anymore because they're getting too much business out of there. Or if you need to find somebody for a certain thing, even a weird thing, like somebody needed a brick pointer, or I need somebody that knows how to fix that white stuff in a log home. I posted in there, got a whole bunch of ideas and really, really reputable people. So highly recommend it to share your business or find a business for whatever you need. If you're on Clubhouse, follow me. I'm at Agent Derek on there. And our room is every Thursday, 1 to 2, like I said. And if you need to buy or sell a home, please reach out to me. Like I said, prices are sky high. So awesome time to sell a house. Text me, email me, throw a rock with a note through my window, send a carrier pigeon, whatever you need to do. We really, really, really need inventory. Remember to support Central PA small business, including YellowBird Ghostwriting and Publishing and all the other awesome Central PA businesses around here. Thank you for watching and listening. And thank you to Isabelle for being here. Say goodbye, Isabelle.
Goodbye. Have a great day. Thank you, my friend.
See you, everybody.